Okay, we're going to get started. Excuse me, we're going to get started. Thank you. The regularly scheduled meeting of the Montezuma County Planning and Zoning Commission is being held in the Commissioner's Meeting Room in Montezuma County Administrative Offices, 109 West Main, Room 270, Cortez, Colorado. We're going to open with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Don, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Farian?
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Here.
Commissioner Sanders is missing. Commissioner Taylor is missing. Commissioner Lynch?
Here.
Commissioner Neergaard is missing.
Also present is Don Haley and Jane Duncan of the County Planning Department. Please silence your cell phones. If you need to take a call, you can step out in the hallway and take that call. Planning and Zoning Commission will review the May meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at them? Any corrections?
Yes.
I have a clarification to ask. On page 3, the last bullet item on that page, in the first sentence, the word now, should that be now or no? P&Z recommended that no further industrial, or P&Z recommended that now further industrial commercial developments be approved?
No.
That is an administration correction, and I can do that after the meeting.
And that should have been no.
Yeah, should be no, not now.
Any other corrections? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve May 11th, 2023 Planning and Zoning minutes with that correction.
I second the motion.
Okay. And can we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Farian?
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Aye.
Commissioner Lynch?
Aye.
No further discussion on the motion. Motion was carried. Vote was unanimous. All right. The Montezuma County Planning Commission welcomes you to this meeting. This is a board comprised of members who are tasked to make recommendations to the county commissioners. We're not the decision makers. We encourage public comment after each permit. A person speaking during public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, depending on the number of people wishing to speak. It may be reduced at the discretion of the Planning Commission to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address their thoughts and concerns. When addressing commissioners, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments. Comments to individual applicants are not permitted. Please direct them all to us. Participants may not yield their time to others. I will be voting tonight. And can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Farian?
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Here.
Commissioner Lynch?
Here.
Okay, number 1, notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing and determining recommendations to be made to the Board of County Commissioners regarding a proposed 2-lot moderate subdivision and AR 3-9 rezoning application submitted by Nelda Jones on property located at 31522 Road W, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 17.5 acres, more or less, located south of Road W, east of Road 31, situated in Section 2, Township 36 North, Range 15 West, New Mexico Prime Meridian. And this one is being continued.
The applicant has requested to have it continued to July 13th.
Okay. So then I will entertain a motion to continue this
I'll
to
make a
July.
motion to continue to our P&Z meeting July 13th.
I second the motion.
Okay. And then can we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Farian,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Lynch.
Aye.
Motion was carried. Vote was unanimous. All right, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Farian,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yep.
Commissioner Lynch.
Here.
All right, number 2. Notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing and determining recommendations to be made to the Board of County Commissioners regarding a proposed 2-lot moderate subdivision and AR 3-9 rezoning application submitted by Vinger Family Trust on property located at 18255 Road 23.5, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 13.57 acres more or less, located south of Highway 184, west of Road 23.5, situated in Section 9, Township 37 North, Range 16 West, New Mexico Prime Meridian. This is a public hearing. Was the public notice published?
Yes, sir.
Was evidence of letters to adjoining neighbors and mineral owners submitted?
Yes, sir.
Was the sign posted?
Yes, sir.
If the applicant wants to come forward. What's that? Yes, yes, ma'am. And if you'll turn on the microphones. Thank you. Okay, Jane, can we have planning department findings, please?
Yes, the applicant is proposing to create a 2-lot moderate subdivision consisting of 8.57 more or less acre parcel and 5 more or less acre parcel. The applicant is planning to sell the 5-acre parcel. The surrounding area is residential and large and small agricultural uses. The driveway access has been in use for many, many years off of 23.5, and all the infrastructure is in place because there are 2 homes on there.
Thank you. Planning Commission, do we have any questions? Or do you guys have anything to add? Okay, thank you. No question. John?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, then we will open it to public comment. If you'd like to comment, please come to the podium. State your name and address. Okay. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. And I will entertain a motion at this time.
I would have a comment, though, on back, and again, I'm gonna go back to those. If the property is sold, and I'm assuming it's gonna be not to a relative,
That's correct.
okay, that a condition be placed on the approval that the sellers make sure the buyers know that there's a land use code in Montezuma County. Whether you give them a copy of it or you give them an email with a link, somehow let them know that there is a land use code. And with that, I would make a motion to approve to the County Board of Commissioners the proposed 2-lot subdivision and AR3 rezoning application submitted by Vinger Family Trust based on the following. The proposed use is in conformity with the code. The proposed use shall not generate any significant adverse impacts on other property in the area, and public utilities and services are available or can be made available to support uses consistent with the proposed zoning.
I second the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? No? Okay, then we will call a vote.
Commissioner Farian,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Lynch.
Aye.
Motion was carried. Vote was unanimous. Good luck. Thank you, guys. right. Can we call roll, please?
Commissioner Farian,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Lynch.
Here.
Okay, number 3, notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing and determining recommendations to be made to the Board of County Commissioners regarding a proposed 2-lot moderate subdivision and AR 3-9 rezoning application submitted by Carl Spielman and Melinda Elkin on property located at 17604 Road 23, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 10.03 acres, more or less, located north of Road T, east of Road 23, situated in Section 16, Township 37 North, Range 16 West, New Mexico Prime Meridian. This is a public hearing. Was the public notice published?
Yes, sir.
Was evidence of letters to adjoining neighbors and mineral owners submitted?
Yes, sir.
And was the sign posted?
Yes, sir.
Do the applicants want to come forward? Hello. Okay, Jane, can we have planning department findings, please?
Sure. The applicants propose to create a 2-lot moderate subdivision consisting of 1 3 more or less acre parcel and 1 7 more or less acre parcel. The surrounding area is residential and large and small agricultural uses. There is a residence on there, so infrastructure is already in place.
Thank you. Do you have anything else you'd like to add? No. Okay. Is there current access to the 7-acre parcel off of T? No. Okay. Is there any plan to, I don't see any reason to, but there's no easement through the 3-acre to the 7, correct?
Not yet, we could grant that, but we own the property just to the north,
Okay,
and so we're just gonna put a gate in the fence, there's already one on there.
gotcha,
We're just interested in the pasture, and we're interested in the residents.
gotcha. Thank
We're
you.
not planning to sell it right away, though.
Okay. Have any questions?
So you said you were not going to sell?
Someday it'll get sold. of course,
Someday.
but we're not planning to sell it in the
Okay,
future.
and there would be an access off of T, or you would create an easement?
Which law are you asking if we're gonna sell?
Well, yeah, well, if you sold the 7, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, there's no access, and we don't plan to sell that.
Okay,
Okay, so you're, okay, all right,
That's gonna be subsumed into our property, basically.
okay.
and you're the property north, you said, so it would just, it's essentially, becomes that section. Okay, perfect.
You can see how the meadows and the pastures travel through that area.
Through the 7 acres, right?
Yep. All right.
So let's see, number 1 has been, okay, yeah, they own that too.
Any other questions? John?
Yep,
Okay.
good.
All right, then we will open it to public comment. Anybody would like to comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. And we can entertain a motion.
Okay. I'll make a motion to recommend to approve to the county commissioners regarding proposed 2-lot moderate subdivision and AR 3-9 rezoning application submitted by Carl Spielman and Melinda Elkin based on the following. The proposed is in conformity with the code. The proposed shall not generate any significant adverse impacts on other property in the area, and public utilities and services are available or can be made available to support uses consistent with the proposed zoning.
And no conditions.
No
Right.
condition.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay. No further discussion. We'll go ahead and call a vote.
Commissioner Farian,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Lynch.
Aye.
Motion was carried and vote was unanimous. Good luck. Thank you. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Farian,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Lynch,
Here.
Okay, number 4, this was continued from February. Notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing and determining recommendations to be made to the Board of County Commissioners regarding a proposed high-impact permit application submitted by Silvina Guarino Moore and Jeremy Moore on property located at 7134 Road 41, Mancos, Colorado, consisting of 3.71 acres, more or less, located south of Highway 160, east of Road 41, situated in Section 4, Township 35 North, Range 13 West, New Mexico Prime Meridian. This is a public hearing. Was a public notice published?
Yes, sir?
Was evidence of letters to adjoining neighbors and mineral owners submitted?
Yes, sir?
Was the sign posted?
Yes, sir?
Applicants want to come forward? And I'm sorry for butchering your last name.
did you want to hand out your packets?
Oh, yeah. And we had a presentation too, I wasn't sure if you could put
Pardon?
that on the screen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, or unless you want to keep it. No, but I'll put it up on the screen.
Okay. Jane, can we have planning department findings, please?
Yes. The applicants propose to create a venue for intimate events and gatherings. They state that there will be absolutely no outdoor music. The surrounding properties consist of residential, small and large agricultural uses, along with the Weaver Canyon Cemetery to the south. There is a structure on the property, so all infrastructure is in. The existing driveway to the current property is off of Road 41, and that's about it.
Thank you. All right. Do you all have anything you would like to add?
We have a presentation
Yeah.
that will get loaded in just a second.
Okay.
We want to thank everybody for coming out. This is our second round presenting for our proposal for an event venue on Road 41. We had our first hearing back in November, but we want to go over some changes that we made since then. We're here with our planning consultant, Tiffany Rhodes, and we're going to have her introduce the proposal, and then Silly and I will jump back in to talk about some other things after that.
Good evening, everyone. I think that's working. My name again is Tiffany Rhodes, and I am a consultant to help folks go through the permitting processes that most people never do, and it can be a interesting process. And so we're here back again. We have fine-tuned our application, and let me just do my pitch on what we're trying to do. I started working with them shortly after they came before you. It was a totally new process to them. And so when I was working with them and consulting with them, I was like, you have to show like your business plan of operations. So what they are doing is they are presenting tonight their upgraded and improved application so that you are familiar with what they are actually wanting to do. There was some confusion last time, so we've cleared it all up. Their ultimate goal is to turn 2,200 square feet of the 3,500 square foot home into a community event space. Their property is a little bit less than 4 acres, and they have about a 200-foot driveway that leads into the property. They have, as you can tell, this barn dominium home that has 2 stories, and they will be utilizing those event spaces. Their plan is to host micro events, like micro weddings, birthday parties, celebration of life services, seminars, educational classes, just to name a few. Upstairs and downstairs, we wanted to show you kind of what the center looked like. Here you can see that there are two main spaces. The barn area is on the left side, and that is on the main floor and has garage doors, that garage door that you can see on the, tell me again, the south side?
No. That's the north side.
North side. And then on the other side, you saw on the previous slide, the barn doors. The current application process, oh, next slide, please. So the current application proposes that the wedding season run from May to October. The micro weddings would be a maximum of 2 times per week. Other community events would be limited to 2 times a month. The focus is to target the micro event industry, and all events would have a maximum of 60 people. We don't expect to have most events being that large, and regardless of what size of the events, they will all close at 10 p.m. Next slide. This is just a real quick bullet statement page of what were the major application changes. 1, we are no longer asking or applying for the commercial rezoning. 2, we've eliminated the music festival, the outdoor concerts, and the short-term rentals from the application. 3, we've made updates into our application, including the narrative that was provided to you guys, to show how we've revised the application to reflect truly what we wanted to have presented, as well as mitigations that we have done to address community concerns. Biggest thing, probably hands down, was we took out the commercial zoning. When working with the planning department, we realized that that was not actually what we were needing or really asking for to provide as a service. So we went with a high impact special use permit to allow for the seasonal, to allow for this, I keep pushing that away, to allow for the seasonal usage on the property with the event center. In the event, do I keep fading out? Here we go. In the event that the business has an opportunity to grow later in the future, we will be back to the planning department to get the necessary permits for that. Right now, we have really scaled down our application, and we are.
Sorry about your floor.
Thank you. You know, we've really detailed it in so that everybody kind of knew where we were operating from. I'm going to wait for my next slide, unless somebody else can. Sorry, Don. One of the main points of confusion was the outdoor concert and short-term rental and music festival. It was never our intention in the first place to have, you know, a huge music venue. It was basically the music, the quartets, the small facility, or small bands that would perform for the wedding ceremonies, etc. We are also, like was stated, we are also saying that there will be no outdoor music. The bands will not be outside. They will always be within that main floor or the upstairs facility like you saw in that initial picture. Music will only be allowed inside because that is how we feel we can control the decibel with meters and limiters. That way we can really monitor and make sure that we are accommodating our presentation, that we will be within the code requirements. So, Jeremy and Sylvie have worked really hard, and they've gone through a big learning process, and they've, you know, really detailed in and really thought about how does this actually work and what do we need to make accommodations for. And these are just some of the items that they have built into their new narrative in the application, and with all the mitigations and the details that include anywhere from traffic all the way down to on-site chaperones and everything in between. So I'm going to pass it over to Sylvie because she is the expert at the mitigations and details.
Thank you. You can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So for more noise mitigation, I want to talk about the 2 spaces that the events will take place in, the downstairs and the upstairs. So for the downstairs, we host dinners and cocktail hours here. Live music will only be allowed if it can be under 70 decibels, and the total limit allowed with crowd noise is 80. That's average for restaurants and bars. As far as doors in the space goes, there's a garage door that you see in the photo there. That's going to be closed for every event. We're never going to open that, so we can avoid projecting any noise into the valley. On the south end of the barn, there are 2 barn doors that would stay open if the weather allows for it. Next up, next slide, please. Okay, the upstairs space. So this is where we'll hold like the main ceremony for the micro weddings, and then flip it to host a dance reception after dinner. This room is insulated, and the maximum decibel limit will be 100. Although most, if not all, events will never reach that high, that level will actually damage hearing. It's highly unlikely, but we wanted to test our maximums, which is why we set it at 100. So next slide. So based on those 2 scenarios, downstairs at 80 and upstairs at 100, we were able to test just how far the noise actually traveled. We hired Cottonwood Consulting, and they used their calibrated decibel reader to not only measure levels at our property lines, but also at 3 of our immediate neighbors' driveways. The results are shown in this graph here on the left. The blue is correlating to the downstairs, and the pink is correlating to the upstairs test. The results, and they concluded, and I quote, "The results of the study indicate that the noise from the property does not cause a significant increase in overall decibel levels in the project area, and that noise from passing cars and barking dogs may result in higher decibel increases than music from the property." I also wanted to note that this test was done in February, but not after a fresh snowstorm. So at the time of this test, the snow had compacted down quite a bit, and the cited study in the bottom footnote outlines the validity of the test under similar conditions. But regardless, we do plan on mitigating this throughout our operation. So we plan on measuring decibels in the summer and fall, and we're ready to adjust decibel limits should we find out new data. Okay, so back to the results for the next slide, please. To give perspective on what these numbers mean, the average taken from our neighbors' driveways was 37.4. So that's equivalent to a light rain and not discernible from ambient noise in the valley. I was actually with Emma and her assistant during this test, and it was a super clear day, no wind. I could not hear the music whatsoever. And then next slide. So here's how far we are from our closest neighbors. 543, 635, and 815 feet respectively. That's a football field away from our nearest neighbor. And here's a view of our place from the road next to them. Our venue is nestled behind trees under that arrow there. Okay, next. Okay, moving on to traffic mitigation. So we will determine the need for our shuttle service prior to booking any event. This requirement will be based on 2 things: the number of guests and the type of event it is. Next slide. So again, here we have 2 scenarios. Self-parking for smaller community gatherings and other events, which I'll go into, that will require a shuttle service. There will never be an open invite to either one of these types of events. Next. So the first scenario is limited self-parking. For smaller events that don't require a shuttle, we will only have 15 parking spots made, and that will be available to be issued along with tickets to the event, so we never go over the 15 vehicle round trip. Vendor vehicles will be considered, and available parking goes down if vendors go up. And then for the second scenario, we'll require a shuttle service for all events that have involved any type of alcohol consumption. So that's a given. We're going to take those, that fear, just solve that problem right there. Or we would otherwise require a shuttle service for things that, events that would otherwise exceed the 15 vehicle round trip limit. So depending on the number of scheduled pickups and drop-offs, we can adjust the number of vendors for self-parking to meet the limit every time. So for example, we have a 15-passenger van. So to mitigate traffic for a 50 to 60 person event, we could do 5 pickups, 6 drop-offs, and up to 4 vendor self-parking. And then for a 30-person event, we could do 3 pickups, 4 drop-offs, and 8 vendors can self-park. Again, this totals 15 round trips. We'd replicate this exercise for every event before we book it, so we can determine the best approach to create as minimal traffic impact as possible. Sorry, I'm getting a little jumbly. It's also worth noting, we did call the Road and Bridge Department, and even though they didn't have any data for Road 41 at the time of our call, they said that even with 20 round trips, we would not have a significant impact on the county road. And if you look at it spread across the month, even if we had a maximum of 2 weddings a week, which is around 8 a month, and the additional 2 community events are at maximum capacity, it would equate to about 5 vehicle round trips a day. And I feel like that's important to keep in mind. Okay, thanks. Okay, next I want to talk about parking and light pollution. So at our open house that we held for our neighbors, one of them mentioned how our parking area was basically just like they had a clear view of it and they saw headlights coming in and out. It was a problem. So we listened to that and we actually pivoted, and we are now proposing a new parking area that's more wooded so they don't get that glare. So you'll see here in this photo, that's the view from the new parking area and a satellite view of it to show kind of where it was and where we're now proposing. And then next slide. Here's again a photo from the road and how hidden our whole operations would be. Next. Okay, next up is fire mitigation, and this actually hasn't changed from our original application. We live on site and we take fire dangers very seriously. We have a very clear and strict fire mitigation plan in place, including having designated smoking areas. We're also banning sparklers, fireworks, campfires, fire pits, all of that. So that's all in there. And we have this plan in place despite a professional assessment by the Wildlife Adapted Partnership, who saw that we had clear access and excellent, well-maintained vegetation, and they waived that requirement at this time, but we have it. Okay. Okay, one very important addition to our application is requiring an on-site chaperone. So this person would be in charge of overall supervision for every event. So everything from making sure noise limits are being met, fire safety, everything, even the shuttle service and making sure no unauthorized cars park on the county road, things like that. They will be in charge of everything. We're making sure this is a key component in our contracts as well, with the couples. That way we're able to enforce all our mitigation. Okay, for sewage and licenses, again, there's no change from our original application. We will be requiring bathroom trailers for all events, which will be serviced as needed. Licenses will also follow the catering businesses and bartenders to make sure nobody's getting served who is a minor. Okay, in addition to all our mitigation plans that I just went over, we're also going to upgrade parts of our space. The first being, we want to insulate the whole downstairs area. So that will help with sound even more. We also plan to add an outdoor fenced-in area for the smoking area so people don't just wander around. We'll also have a gate at the entrance of our driveway to prevent people from just stopping by. And we'll also post no parking signs along our driveway to maintain clear access.
So I just want to talk about our neighborhood outreach for a minute. After our first initial hearing, we met with our closest neighbors, and we went door to door to speak with more than 30 people who'd signed an opposition letter. We also invited them to an open house meeting at our home where people could come and see our venue and learn more about the mitigations that we come up with. At that meeting, we presented the new information on our proposal, and we also listened to feedback and responded to their comments. Next slide, please. We think this venue would be a boon to the local economy, starting right in Weber Canyon. The events would support local products, we'd use local meat and produce, and we'd use local vendors like wedding photographers, florists, and caterers. And as I'm sure you're all aware, it's difficult for small businesses to make it in Mancos, especially when the tourist season dies down during the winter. But with the traffic we'd bring into Mancos, the positive effects from that would be felt by restaurants, motels, retail shops, etc. And we'd create other employment opportunities as well. We'd need a shuttle driver, a chaperone, staffing, all that stuff. In general, the wedding industry is pretty big, but most wedding vendors in this area end up having to leave the county in order to find their business, and that's why they usually work over in Durango or Telluride. So having a venue here keeps those services here inside the county, which is obviously a good thing. And in fact, we ended up getting over 140 people, including 62 businesses, to sign a letter of support for us, from neighbors in Weber to businesses in Farmington, Durango, Hesperus, and all over the area. Next slide, please. So I'd also like to address some of the feedback we've gotten so far. We've heard from some people say, you know, this type of thing just doesn't belong here, meaning it doesn't belong in an agricultural setting. And understandably, one of the main purposes of the land use code is to protect what's referred to as the rural character of the county. But if we're going to talk about what does or doesn't belong in Weber, I think it's fair to say that event barns like ours have existed since more than 100 years ago. In fact, not 50 yards from our own barn, there's a monument to one of the most important event spaces in history in Montezuma Valley, and that was the original Weber Hall. It was used for weddings and events, and it stood as an event center for the Mormon community for 3 generations. So these rural event centers, they don't really get any mention in the land use code, and they're not like most commercial operations. They're not like a big housing development or a warehouse with big trucks going up and down the road, such as the Jay Stringer case that everybody loves to bring up. It's not like a condo or a subdivision or an RV park, a biker rally, a music festival. It's just not like that stuff. It's just a barn off a county road that fits right into the area, and we just want to host small events that have a rural experience that you can't find inside the business district. Next slide, please. So these types of venues exist in counties all over the place, and it's nothing new. And I think the reason they're often allowed in ag zones is probably because the unique nature of these event centers. They're just not like other commercial operations that don't fit in rural areas. And the other phrase we hear a lot is there's just no need for it. Actually, I think there is a need for it, and you can see that just from the amount of inquiries we've already gotten from the community so far. Without even being operational yet, people in Mancos have already reached out to us about hosting their events, from funerals to weddings to birthday parties, agricultural seminars, and vocational seminars. I think the reason we've already got so much interest is because none of the other venues that are here are quite like ours. And to be honest, the event spaces that are already here just don't have the attention to detail that people want. Next slide, please. And the last thing I want to mention is just how invested in the community we are. I grew up here in Cortez, and I come from a big family. We've been in this area for 7 generations now, and we live all over this area, including Cortez, Mancos, Dolores, and Durango too. Sylvie volunteers with the school here, and also the creative district. And I've got family in the school, and so we go to all sorts of those school events. And we have our own plans to raise children here as well. So this is home to us. And I guarantee I care about the tranquility of this place just as much as anyone here. I have background in preservation. I spent a large part of my younger years as a cave guide, teaching people about fragile environments. And it's one of my core values to have a small footprint, as they say. And that includes my neighborhood as well. We're not out to build some big, loud, crazy venue. We just want to host small, quiet events that showcase the beauty of our barn, and I hope that you can trust us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And to close, yeah, maybe we can just hold on this slide. As we go into your questions and public comment, I just want to have a summary of everything that we've mitigated for on screen there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any questions from the commission?
Yes.
Go
You
ahead.
first?
Okay, your portable bathrooms,
Mm-hmm.
you have somebody local that supplies that?
I think they don't have it at N.M.P., but there's another local vendor that does it, and
Out
you
of-
would rent it for the season.
Out of Durango?
I don't
possibly?
know where they, I think they're even out of state. There's not really an option in the Four Corners.
Okay.
If you know anyone.
But, yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything like that here.
Yeah.
I've seen them in California and so forth, but
No,
not
they
here.
They do have it here, yeah.
And it's
Okay.
most likely that we'll upgrade our septic before then anyways, because the price of those trailers is just
Oh, yeah.
about the
It's a
same as
lot.
what it's gonna be for us to upgrade, so.
Yeah.
Right, okay. That's all I have.
So I'm glad you spent some time on the issue of the traffic and the 15 round trips, but it's still not clear to me because in some of the language in the application in different places, it seems to be conflicting ideas, and so I want to really clear that up.
Yeah.
At least for myself, because it sounds like what you're claiming you will do is, depending on the size of the event, you will plan ahead such that you will never go above a 15 round trip limit. So if the number of people reaches a certain in your planning of this event, when the number of people reach a certain level, you will opt to use the transport, the van, either in conjunction with parking or by itself, and in order to always, at all events, stay below the 15 round trip per day for the event. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And honestly, for all weddings, if there's going to be alcohol, it's going to default to shuttle service required only. And then those other spaces will determine how many people it is. And then we'll give the vendors, we'll have up to 8. But I don't think people will have 8 vendors per wedding. That's quite a lot. Having just had a wedding, that is a lot of people. That would not be realistic for a 60 people wedding. Yeah.
Yeah. That, just a comment, when I visited the property, that area, it's very hilly right there. And as we were leaving, there was a bicyclist on the road, and it's only 2 lanes, and he was approaching the hill. Well, you can't see very far, so you end up having to wait until the bicyclist goes to the top of the hill, or if you're fast enough. So it's a safety concern if there would be a lot of traffic there. So I can see to me, it seems pretty important to
It
hold
definitely
to
is.
that.
And we've
Yes.
actually called the Road and Bridge Department multiple times about possibly adding another sign there, because for us, it's a mixed bag every time we exit our driveway. People are just driving really fast down that hill, so we understand completely. Sorry, I've been hogging the mic.
I had the same kind of comment. Wondering if you might, for your event on the northbound side, put a signage on downhill side that just says event in process.
Yeah.
So somebody, coming is gonna know that there's
Yes.
gonna be an event.
And we're going to close the gate.
Yeah, that would be on the northbound, because like
Yeah, absolutely.
Commissioner Lynch says, you can't see over that little hill.
Right.
Luckily, our van's a little taller too, so that helps. That helps a little bit.
And then the 50 decimal reading to the property line, correct, in the land use code?
It's 70 from
70.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 55 from 7
55,
p.m. to
okay.
7
Okay.
a.m. at the property line.
Okay. That's all I have.
I think it's pretty clear what you're trying to do. It's very clear. We've laid it out. So if we don't have anything else, we'll take it to a public hearing at this time. If you would like to comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address. Please address all comments towards us. Thank you.
3 minutes.
And just a reminder, you have 3 minutes. At your 3 minutes, I will raise my hand, just so you know.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay.
You're ready. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So my name is Jessica McIntyre, and I live next door. We are a family of 5 with 3 little... Sure, it's 7294 Road 41.
Thank you.
So we're just north, and we have a lot of property that's adjacent to their property. We have a small family, and we have a small orchard and farm, and some animals. We moved to Mancos for the rural nature of it, and for a place for our kids to grow up that's in an agricultural area. I do want to respond to some of the things that were said, that for the support that they've received. I can understand why businesses around the area would support this because they'll make money, but they're not the ones the most impacted. There are many nearby neighbors that are impacted that oppose this and have signed. We have 50 people on that letter. They're kind of scattered because we've gotten them returned to us. And there's a map that shows you the vicinity in which they live in. I suspect the majority, and I would ask how many supporters actually will be impacted in Weber Canyon. They also mentioned investment in the community, but as a neighbor, I don't feel like we've really gotten to that point of being able to have a positive relationship or that they've addressed any of our concerns, or most of them. I do worry about having a commercial business because of the blanket hip that this would use, and I worry that the future could hold additional blanket hips to run commercial businesses in an agricultural area. I do worry about traffic. They are addressing a lot of it, and they've done a lot of work. But that doesn't negate the fact that there's no shoulders. There's not guardrails in many places. It's not a road to have increased traffic, especially with strangers, for people coming in out of town. I worry about people being drunk next to my kids. I mean, you can't stop people from exploring or yelling. I do, so I worry about the noise. I witnessed quite a bit of the sound test, and I disagree. I think it was inadequate. They didn't have people talking or yelling on the northeast, north, northwest, west, or southwest portions of the property. We did not witness them testing in our property line that is 60 feet away from their event house. They did not open doors and windows while music and people were talking, yelling. They had music in the house. People will be in and out, doors will be open, and windows will be open. It is not realistic that a chaperone can stop people from walking around or yelling, in my opinion. Especially when their selling point is a rural area with landscapes. The event hosted on January 21st was louder.
That's your 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Evie. I also live on Road 41, 8411 Road 41, just a couple miles down from Sylvie. I'm also a mom. I'm a single mom of 2 kids, and my main source of income is I'm a wedding and elopement photographer. So you can see, for obvious reasons, it would be really great for me as a wedding photographer to have a wedding venue local. I mostly drive to Durango and Telluride to shoot weddings, and somewhere in Mancos would be lovely. Yeah, I also have a lot of friends in Mancos who don't know if they can work here year-round in Mancos, just because there's such a shortage of places to work, of employment opportunities, especially through the winter. So I think it's a really good way to bring, some more businesses to Minkus. And so, yeah, as a mom with kids and a businesswoman and a farmer, I think it would be amazing to have a wedding venue on Road 41.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sally Dezek at 191 Railroad Avenue in Mancus. This letter is from Jane Chipman at 38355 Road K.7 Mancus. I'm writing to support Sylvina and Jeremy's application for a high-impact special use permit. This application has drawn a lot of attention from the community, which I understand. We all love the Mancus Valley. We want it to remain the small, close-knit, quirky, rural community that we know and love. I believe that if this property is granted the permit applied for, it will only emphasize the elements that we all love about the Mancus Valley, without creating problems for the immediate community. Why do I think this will be a boom for the area? Mancus is a vibrant community full of music activities and blossoming nonprofits. While we have some amazing local venues to host events, many of these are centered around restaurants and bars. There are very limited venues where being around alcohol is not a prerequisite. Weber Hall will fill this gap. Why do I think the immediate community will not experience negative impacts? I have lived here for 5 years within a 0.5 mile distance as the crow flies from Willowtail Springs, which also hosts micro weddings. Given the precautions around both noise and traffic the Willowtail takes, I have never been negatively impacted. From my own experience, I can assure those concerned with the noise and traffic that Sylvina and Jeremy are proposing will work. Thank you for the time. I also own a business in Mancus, a lodging business, and having an event space like this that runs later into the year, August, September, October, will bring more people to Mancus, which puts more people in our lodging business, which means I can keep my housekeepers employed longer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hope Woods. I live at 620 Baker Avenue here in Cortez. This is a letter from Faylee Funk at 6392 Road 41 in Mancus, Colorado. To whom it may concern, I'm writing to express my support for Weber Hall and the planned micro weddings. I feel that the owners have made a genuine effort to incorporate all specific and important requests from the county, the community, and the neighbors. Since future guests would consistently be shuttled to an event, I feel that standards for traffic and safety are being met. I also know that we have a noise ordinance that will be respected. The small weddings at Weber Hall will provide local jobs, income, purpose, and create revenue for the entire community of Mancus. Guests will stay, buy gas, groceries, go out for coffee, lunch, dinner, and shop locally. I also understand that the owners have offered Weber Hall for community events. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Michonne Olson. I live at 14050 Road 37, Mancus, Colorado. And this letter is from Gary Vanderberg at Durango Family Practitioner, 2595 Aurora Drive, Durango, Colorado. To the Montezuma County Board of Commissioners. As a local vendor, I know how hard it is for some of my clients who are having smaller weddings to find a venue that is affordable, yet also equipped for their needs on a wedding day. So many venues cater to couples looking to have 100 plus guests because that's more profitable for them. Without micro-destination spots like Weber Hall, many customers are forced to move their venues to backyards or friends' ranches, or even worse, not in the area at all. Weddings are an important and critical portion of our economy, not only for the vendors who would be supporting the couple at the venue, but also because of all the guests visiting from out of town who need accommodations, food, lodging, and might even spend time participating in local tourist attractions available in Mencos, Cortez, and Durango. Finally, when people are using an official venue like this, as opposed to a simple backyard wedding, that typically means that they are being served alcohol by licensed vendors who are ensuring that people do not drink beyond reason, and also that minors are not being served. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Max Walsh at 606 Highway 172 in Durango, and this letter is on behalf of Charles R. Riggs and Blythe Morrison at 41631 Road H 25 in Mencos. To whom it may concern, we write this letter in enthusiastic support of Jeremy and Sylvina Moore's high impact and special use permit application for the proposed Weber Hall community venue. We had the opportunity to visit their home on Tuesday, June 7th, and they welcomed our many questions about their business plan, including concerns about traffic, parking, and noise. We were impressed with the steps that the property owners had taken to address the various concerns they have received from members of our community. We were encouraged by the numerous ways in which they intend to control noise and keep the number and impact of vehicles on the road around the property at a minimum. Given their serious consideration of the community's concerns and various mitigative steps they have taken, we are convinced that this business will provide a positive contribution to the Mencos community. As Mencos residents who've lived on Road H25, we are satisfied that there will be no significant impact to the route beyond normal disruptions we are already used to. For example, periodic cattle drives, large funerals at Cedar Grove Cemetery, high school cross-country practice, and the annual 5K half-marathon races, to name a few. As members of the Mencos community, we believe that we are all at our best when we help another and when we recognize the importance of personal freedom. Freedom to do with our land as we wish, provided it does not harm anyone. Freedom to pursue entrepreneurial enterprises as the many businesses, farms, and ranches in the area continue to do. And the freedom to provide a space for the community to gather to celebrate important events such as weddings, celebrations of life, graduation celebrations, business retreats, and any number of events that serve a rural community like ours. In fact, it is our strong belief that the purpose of a community is to support, encourage, and help all of its members. We appreciate that Jeremy and Sylvina continue to take the concerns of the community seriously, and we hope that their high impact and special use permit is granted. They have demonstrated a clear commitment to the small farms and businesses of Mencos and have responded to community concerns in a proactive manner. We believe that they deserve a chance to prove their vision that could be a great benefit to their community. Respectfully, Dr. Charles R. Riggs and Blythe Morrison in Mencos.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello, I'm Charmaine Neighbors. I live at 20432 Road U in Cortez. And this letter is from Nicole and Jake Thompson, owners of Global Kitchen, at 41900 US 160 in Mencos. To whom it may concern. Through this note, we would like to express our support for the Weber Hall. For a business like ours, a small restaurant, having the choice to bring customers to the Weber Hall for dinners made a huge difference between being able to keep our doors open or closed. We believe that with clear boundaries and respect, Sylvina and Jeremy will be able to both honor their neighbors' requests and run the hall as a small venue. Thank you for your time, Nicole and Jake Thompson, owner of Global Kitchen. I was a guest at their wedding, which had approximately 60 guests of their family and friends. And it was beautiful, it was intimate, everyone was respectful. There was alcohol, no one got out of control. There was a shuttle. There was very beautiful, intimate, quiet service. They had a cellist during their walk into the thing. They performed a wonderful song, the two of them, afterwards, downstairs, and it was absolutely gorgeous. The best wedding I've ever been to. So I 100% am in support of them as people, their structure as a wonderful addition to the community, and the impact that it will have for Montezuma County and everyone else that will come join us here because of that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Celeste Quackenbush, and I live on Road 25, 14123 in Dolores. This is a letter from Lisa Louie at 11093 Road 40 and a half, Mancus. To whom it may concern, as a local who lives in Mancus, I am in full support of this proposal. Our community needs more spaces for weddings and events, and people who are consciously creating a space for it that takes into account all community needs. I am also a flower farmer florist, and unfortunately, 98% of my business is out of the county. I would love the chance to have more business opportunities in this county. And one of the biggest complaints I get from people in the county who are so desperately looking for a space like this, and they tell me, you know, unfortunately, I have to go to Durango because we don't have anything like this. Or what we do have, it's just not what I'm looking for. So I think as a small business owner in Montezuma County, we're constantly missing out in this industry. To have something like this and not have to drive hours away and possibly spend the night because I have to do a strike down, this would be so, so beneficial. And I just think that they've thought out so many things, and it's such a good dream. And I think that they are trying everything to be so mindful of their community. And I just really hope that this is something that follows through. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Lacey Moore, and I live at 44406 Road M in Mancus. And I had not intended on speaking, but I thought it would be good so I can maybe help ease the Weber's neighbors, because I live 1 mile from Echo Basin, and they, you know, have wedding and RV park. And my concern with Jeremy and Sylvie when they were going to do this venue was traffic and noise. And I think they have done a great job at, you know, trying to mitigate every concern. And just at Echo Basin, you know, they have far larger events, and the only problem that we are ever faced with is, you know, when traffic is really heavy. And, you know, when they had concerts, that was a huge, you know, problem. But other than that, it does not affect us whatsoever. I've lived there for, I don't know, 15 years since I grew up there. I lived in Cortez for like 5 years, and I've lived there 15 years since. So I feel like I'm really excited for Jeremy and Sylvie, because I also look for places to host events, you know, like baby showers or celebrations of life, and we don't have a lot of that in Mancus, and their space is just, you know, has attention to detail, and it's very nice, and I'm hoping that they can proceed with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Josh Mischke. I live at 542 East 5th Street, Durango, Colorado. I just wanted to say I was at Jeremy and Sylvie's wedding, and I don't live in Mancus, but I was just amazed at how they ran the wedding, and I've been to a lot of weddings, and it was actually the best wedding I've been to, and it was just extremely professional, and I was just blown away by just the great job that they did planning it, and I'm sure that's the first wedding that you guys have ever planned, and so I think they would do a great job and respect their community. So thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carrie, excuse me, I'm Carrie Summers, and I live at 38790 Road K4 in Mancos. I've lived there for 32 years. I did live on the corner of G and 41, just, an eighth of a mile from this venue. And I have some concerns that I think that you guys should look at. First of all, most of us, I'm also a realtor in Mancos. I have my own company. I'm a broker of Colorado Ranch and Home Realty. And I really enjoy sitting outside and hearing the turkeys, seeing the deer, and I think this would really affect that. And if I was still living at that place down Weber, I know I wouldn't see that. They have addressed the traffic, but that road is scary. In the winter, coming up Cemetery Hill, there's no guardrails, and even just a few extra cars, it's scary. People slide off of there all the time. That is a concern on that road. People are walking, they're riding their bikes, and I think that's something to consider. They have, a little over 4 acres, but all the 4 acres isn't usable. So they compare it to Echo Basin, but, they only have about 2 acres that are usable. And then the other concern is the Mancos Rural Water Tap that they have. They have a residential water tap. So, I don't know, have they spoken to Mancos Rural Water? So I kept getting calls from all kinds of my clients and friends about this deal. So I sat down and met with them and with Sylvie and trying to understand what they're doing. But I think it just boils down to that they don't have enough space. It's too small of a footprint that they're doing. The land use code does talk about that the noise is from 7 to 7 p.m. Well, in their permit, they're talking that it would go till 10 p.m. every Friday and Saturday night. So you come home from work and you want to relax, but you can't. And they're saying in a couple of places, there were in their presentation saying barn doors were going to be closed, barn doors were open. Who's going to enforce that? I mean, come on. I get calls all the time. What do I do with my neighbors? They're not following the rules. The other thing is, they said that they're going to measure the tests all the time. I mean, that just seems very cumbersome. And, they've been talking about the Mormon Hall in the 1900s. And I asked her, I said, well, have you talked to the Mormon community?
We did.
And so the big thing is that that's when everybody was invited. We're not all invited to these things. So it's, that's a big deal. Time's up.
Your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Scott Midgley. My wife, Christine Swank, is here with me this evening. We own and reside at the property at 8370 Road 41, Mancos, Colorado. We're just above, not the Weber Cemetery, but the cemetery that's north of the subject property. We wish to express our opposition to the approval of the above-referenced high-impact permit application. In addition to the objections raised in the objection letter that you previously received, we offer the following statement. As owners and operators of a number of businesses and investors in a large number of both commercial and residential properties over the last 40 years, we are confirmed and committed capitalists who believe in the American free enterprise system. We have a significant investment in properties located in and near the town of Mancos. We support existing and new businesses and encourage others who are so inclined to form their own businesses in their individual pursuit of the American dream. However, we also recognize that from time to time, reasonable regulations concerning the location and manner of the operation of business enterprises are important. The land use and zoning regulations adopted by Montezuma County and various towns and municipalities within Montezuma County are good examples of these land use and zoning regulations. Historically, as all of you are quite aware, the land use and zoning regulations generally have served our communities well over many decades. In our view, the proposed use described in the subject high impact use permit application is just the type of commercial enterprise which the current land use and zoning regulations do not and should not allow and condone in the surrounding neighborhood, which is residential and agribusiness. The proposed impact use would not provide any net benefit to the neighborhood and to the persons who reside in the area surrounding the subject property. In fact, the overall impact of the proposed use, if the applicant's application is approved, will be negative in terms of increased traffic and noise and the heightened possibility of wildfire outbreaks attendant to the proposed use. We have a particular concern about an outdoor smoking area, of all things. It doesn't matter if it's a cordoned off area with fencing. It just doesn't make any sense to us. You would have a smoking area outside of a building in, this has been a good year for moisture, but many years are not. We think that that is a severe risk that we are not willing to suborn. While there may be a benefit to others who operate businesses in the town of Mancos, those persons are located outside the high impact zone and will not suffer the negative impacts of the high impact use.
Sir,
proposed.
that's your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a copy of the letter if I may submit it. And I'll do that shortly.
Okay.
I didn't come here to speak. I don't do this very well, but I'm not opposed to anybody.
Please state your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Marcia Goodwin. I live at 8966 Road 41. I'm at the very, very beginning of the road. We call ourselves the gatekeepers. But as Carrie was saying, that road is very, very dangerous road, and not only that, it is a high impact road of walkers, bikers. It is dangerous. I've watched my mom, who when she has to go across the street to get her mail, because the box is on the other side of the street, I've actually seen trucks come around the corner there and her hair blow as she's trying to stay as close to the post office, as close to the box as possible, because there's not a lot of space. There's no shoulder, like it's been said before. I'm not opposed to this idea. I can't count how many weddings I have catered and how many weddings I've bartended, and I know for a fact that to have one person designated as a chaperone, I could see it being plural, chaperones, and that sort of thing. And my biggest concern, I think, is the road itself. I think the county should be involved in, understanding that this road is a dangerous road, and it is really used by a lot of walkers, a lot of bikers, has a lot of events for runners, and a lot of high school kids coming from the high school running up there. And that's my biggest concern. I'm not opposed to any sort of, somebody trying to make a business and creating a life for themselves. I get that. And, and I support that sort of thing. But I do think that, if I had to have a beef, I would say the number one concern for me is the traffic and how that is going to be completely controlled and how it's advertised. Like is it definitely 60? Is there a definite thing? Does that, that's still like, you know, that's a lot of cars, that's a lot of people. And I think that you know, the shuttle idea, I get that. I think that I could support that 100%. But back to what Carrie was saying, it is a very dangerous road, and I think from moving forward, as you guys are planning and zoning folks, the county needs to look at that road. The speed limit right in front of my house, right from the corner, it's not even 50 feet from the corner, is a 40-mile-an-hour speed zone.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Bill Vaughn. I live at 152 Spruce in Mancos. I got a couple of comments, and then I'm going to finish Jessica McIntyre's letter that she started earlier. She is the next door neighbor. My first comment is, I see a lot of support that are vested interests from people who are not the neighbors. And most of the neighbors, in fact, almost all of them, the vast majority who are impacted are the ones opposing this. The ones who have a vested interest don't live in the area and will not be impacted in a negative way, and in fact, they're vested to make money. A lot of examples they gave in their demonstration were like the hall. It happens once or twice or 3 times a year. It wasn't things that happen twice a week. So those examples were not very good. There was a lot of talk from people who live in Durango, Cortez, you know, it's not the same thing. So to finish Jessica's letter, a big concern is agricultural noise, but at one point during the open house, Mr. Moore stated that at least 5 people, that neighbors' barking dogs were disturbing his peace, and he thought he could get a sniper rifle and shoot them, or poison them. His comment has alarmed and concerned many neighbors. Most everyone out there has barking dogs. At least somebody comes up to the gate, the dogs bark. It has been suggested that the planning zone should be aware of this. He would have less tolerance for barking dogs if it starts affecting his events. An event center does not belong 60 feet from agricultural noises. Those are 2 different things. They have talked a lot about exceeding the thresholds, and to go with what everyone else said, the traffic, the people walking dogs, you come over a hill, there's a dog, a car coming the other way, people with strollers, babies. It is a terrible place. And once things get started, you give a permit, then what stops it from growing? How do we keep this from just getting out of control? What happens when they have 70 people? Then the next time 80. I don't see that being held. Threshold standard 6 says fencing does not meet livestock fencing, able to stop livestock from encroaching in the multiple areas where there is missing wired fencing. Threshold standard 15, solid waste. Events with 60 guests and 15 staff will produce a lot of garbage, and I don't think that was totally addressed. Threshold standard 13, sanitary sewer disposal. They've already admitted they don't have that covered. And with 60 people, 15 people twice a weekend, that's going to get out of control. Fire and explosives, smoking, all that. I mean, there's just too many things that, not as a firefighter, but...
Sir.
Are we done?
Yeah, that's your time. Thank you.
May I ask a question before I begin to speak?
You can ask a question to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. From reading the statutes and the literature, I don't have clarity and am asking for clarity before I speak. If this high impact permit is granted, does that mean that it will be, the terms written in the proposal will be enforced? Or is it an option to enforce them?
So the high impact permit is contingent on the following of the proposal that is presented here. Okay, so if an infraction upon that at which time that permit could be pulled at that time.
Okay, got it, okay, thank you. Dear members of the committee, my name is, my name is Clara Martinez. I live at 7340 Road 41, next to the McIntyres on my south and Gerald Copenhaver on my north. I disagree with this proposal, and I feel that it is a safety issue for our neighborhood. I am impressed by the mitigations that have been carried out, but I just don't trust these folks yet. And I don't know if I can, because having alienated our local community, our community last fall during the first go-around, because of lack of communication regarding the proposed permit and the minimum adherence to the required public notice, the Moores did not accept the Planning and Zoning Committee's decision and have hired professionals to help them mount a campaign which to me appears not so much for their project as against their neighbors, as exhibited in the rhetoric of their business profile. In their website, they have spoken against our community, who are their neighbors, and come back in an adversarial fashion and a threatening way. They refer to us as a handful of opposition when it's the majority. They have gone door to door in the town of Mancos and in other places, asking people to support their project against the neighbors' wishes. The mayor of Mancos, Queenie Bars, told me when I asked her that just as we out in Weber Canyon can't be part of the town voting and decision-making, the folks in town signing the Moores petition are not part of the decision-making for Weber Canyon. But even so, the Moores were compelled to look for support anywhere they could because they have severed community connection with us, their actual neighbors and community, by threatening to harm. And we, being threatened, are the community which they keep talking about on their website. After the first denial of the permit, Mr. Moore made a veiled threat about shooting the neighbor's noisy dog on their north fence line with a sniper rifle. This makes my hair stand on end because my father was murdered by a disgruntled neighbor when I was a child. I advised my neighbor, who was their neighbor, to report this to the authorities because threats of shooting can never be a joke, and they must be taken seriously.
Thank you.
Craig McClure, 6554 Road 41. So we live south on 41, past the proposed property. I'm here because I feel like this is a give an inch and we're going to get miles taken from a situation. And to me, that was validated when the consultant said in the intro that they're here for this permit and they may come back later for more in the future. So I don't think this is a static situation. This is an ask to not for a special use. It doesn't ask to run a commercial operation in a rural agricultural zone. We're looking at 10 to 12 events a month, including hiring staff, and including using a van, which 15 passenger would be a DOT commercial van. I think we need to look at the language. I didn't get the memo. I was supposed to call it micro events. These are commercial operations, and they're asking rural residents to subsidize the businesses in town to run these events. I'd like to address the traffic issue. I worked in the event industry for years. I worked in catering and weddings. I've had a wedding. I've been to weddings. The 15 trips per day threshold is not per event. That's per day. So what we're not accounting for yet is if they're going to live on site like they said they were going to, they're going to raise a family on site in this venue, there are traffic counts. the traffic to service the porta potties, the traffic to deliver rentals, the traffic of the family to come set up beforehand, the traffic of the photographer to set up, the traffic for the wedding party to come and do their pictures before, the officiant, the catering staff, elderly who can't ride in a 15-passenger van, people who have to arrive late and, you know, come early and or arrive late, leave early. That's what I was going for. Floral delivery, the day after cleanup, when the family comes to collect all the things, the day of when the wedding party comes to drop off the clothes they're going to change into and do all their setup. The 15-passenger van alone at a 60-person wedding generates 8 round trips on its own. So I don't see the math working to stay under this 15 threshold limit. When I mapped it out, I couldn't get an event that had another 26 round trips to run a wedding. My last question is, if this is granted, who enforces? If they have a permit, who from the county comes out and checks the round trips? Who from the county comes out and checks the noise? Who from the county comes out and checks the road and the parking? We've had events already at the space without a permit that violated some of those things. And we as the neighbors had to be those that had to come forth and enforce. And we don't believe that should be put on us to manage their space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Katie McClure at 6554 Road 41. We live down Canyon. Thank you for what you do and the role you play in all of this so that we have a space to have these conversations. I think they're very nice people. I appreciate all the effort they have made to be responsive to the things we brought up at the first hearing. That was a lot of work, and I just want to acknowledge that. I appreciate the need to make a living here. You know, we call it the Mancus hustle because we're always trying to figure something out, doing multiple jobs, changing. I'm just kind of bummed at this point. We moved here 4 years ago to be part of the community that was here. We liked what was here. We know I've been backed into a corner financially and during the pandemic especially, and had ideas of all sorts from a business perspective, how to make a buck. But I didn't pursue many of them because of code or because of neighbors and the impact there. We know it's hard. We moved here to be part of the community, and we loved the farming and ag rancher community. We also love the creative community, and we love how they reside together and have their roles. Most importantly, we looked forward to our kids walking and biking to school and the playground and friends' houses. There are, that I can count with more on the way, we have 9 kids on various sides, not us, I saw your eyes. 9 kids who are of the same age-ish that would be playing together or getting into town, and all the traffic impacts that people have talked about. Pretty much that's what bums me out. Like, we can handle the safety precautions with our kids that exist, because there are some, but that just feels really overwhelming and just sad, because we wanted that freedom for them. And then mostly I'm bummed about the precedent that would be set with the high impact permit, because that just opens the door. Maybe I could start a business. that draws away from what we live here for. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Troy Crowley, 1060 Road 3000, Farmington, New Mexico. So I just want to, regarding how many people they'll shuttle in and out of there, I have a really interesting story, because me and Jeremy are from the Four Corners. We grew up here since we were born. All of our friends are here. But regarding the wedding that he had last year, I was included into it so far, but I was traveling so much that I never reserved my spot for his wedding. Interesting thing is that he kept to it, and he kept on saying, well, you reserve your spot, I have to have you reserved. I never reserved it. Best friends since high school, and he kept to his word. I wasn't included into his actual service because I would have, exceeded the threshold for his wedding. I'm his really good friend, and he excluded me from it because he said, you didn't reserve your spot, you needed to reserve it, and he kept to it. And that's how I think they would stick to their word about, their limit, So it's just and I am it's interesting to me that, it just shows you that they will keep to their word about their limit of capacity, They're not going to go crazy about it. They wouldn't, I was just well, can I just come stand in, They're like, no, we have shuttles reserved for this amount of people, So anyways, I just wanted to say that that's what I think they'll stick to their word, Because I couldn't even go to their wedding because I didn't reserve. So anyways, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Nolan, 41095 Road G. Just want to start off with one thing. 5 years ago, my friend Tyler came in here to do the same thing at Green Table Farm on the north side of the highway there, 160, and Commissioner Rob Pope stated, I can't support a blanket high-impact permit for multiple events. Our system in Montezuma County and the P&Z is designed to consider one event at a time, not a blanket high-impact permit for multiple events. I just want to clarify another thing. Mitigating noise is not the issue. It's the additional noise. I work really hard during the summer. I really like having a cold beer and listening to sprinklers in the evening. I'm going to lose my mind if I have to listen to hooting and hollering and weddings and everything going on every Friday and Saturday for a 5-month period. It's going to drive me absolutely insane and possibly consider me selling my property. The other thing, too, is all this stuff about community and trust. Director Haley, you sent them a cease and desist because they had events after you told them not to. Well, they were telling us that it was in their legal right. So when it comes to this enforcement thing, I know in the application and in the county statutes, it states that they are responsible for taking care of the enforcement, but really it's going to fall on us because the direct neighbors around them don't trust them to enforce it because they lied to you and they lied to us. And the final thing that I really want to kind of bring up is that I appreciate all the support. I understand it. I almost feel really bad being opposed to this, but at the end of the day, the residents down there at Weber and the way topologically this thing works and how the sound's going to carry, I'm not responsible for Global Kitchen and Mesa Verde Hotel's business. I'm not going to have that put on, have us take the burden so other businesses can do that. I don't get a vote in town. I don't do it. I stay out of town politics unless I'm doing stuff with the Conservation District. And that's in the Conservation District. As president of that, I'm representing every single individual in the watershed equally. But when it comes to this, it could work for them, but it's going to be, the burden is going to be shouldered completely on the people within a couple thousand feet of this venue. We're not going to see any benefit besides additional traffic, additional noise, and the potential for something to really not go well. And I'm also worried about property values as well too. I mean, things are also getting out of hand with property values on Road G and Road 41. It's becoming a very desirable place to live. But this whole thing just doesn't make sense. And finally, based on the type of support they have, it seems like I can open up a gas station and a chop shop on my place, and it doesn't matter if the direct neighbors don't like it, as long as I get 150 signatures from people in Farmington and Dolores. This stuff is not adding up to me. And I appreciate you considering the decision, but...
Sir, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Good evening. My name is Amarina Lee Martinez. I live at 613 North Beach Street, Cortez. I grew up at 7340 Road 41, just 2 doors down from this proposed high-impact permit location, and I currently work there during the business week. So I'm also opposed to this impact permit. I do acknowledge and appreciate the effort that went into mitigating many concerns and to all the detail that went into this permit. I still am opposed to this. Mr. and Mrs. Moore have an Instagram page entitled The Weber Hall. For my statement, I focus on an Instagram post from May 25th and my concerns about how this post frames people who live on Road 41 and their relations to the issue of this high impact permit. First, in this post, the Moores state that they are, quote, asking for signatures and public support of our project amidst a handful of opposing neighbors, end quote. There are a so-called handful of us opposing neighbors because we live in a rural place with a lot of open space and with low population density, and we choose to live and work in this place in this way. Neighbors are opposed to this project because the Moores have alienated us in multiple ways, beginning with their first high-impact permit application. Organized opposition from neighbors should be the first indicator that already there is not public support for the second permit application and Weber Hall project. By seeking public support beyond their handful of neighbors, the Moores are essentially attempting to outsource support from people who will not be negatively impacted by the project. Second, the post continues, quote, we believe a small wedding event venue in Montezuma County will boost local businesses and community connection. We're also presenting a unique situation where agriculture and commerce can combine in the best possible way, end quote. This statement is disregarding the fact that the Moores' neighbors are already alienated by their behavior and project efforts, precluding the possibility of community connection. The handful of neighbors amidst whom they live are owners of local businesses, yet are excluded in the Moores' definition of community connection, as they have outsourced support from people who will not be negatively impacted by the project. Having alienated their neighbors, the Moores are not boosting local businesses nor community connection. Without support from neighbors, it is not possible to combine local agriculture and event venue commerce, quote, in the best possible way. Toward the end of the post, they state, quote, we are determined to highlight local agriculture and industry talent through this new venue. Then continue, we can protect the rural character, peace, and tranquility of Upper Canyon while also providing a space to celebrate connection. These statements disregard the concerns of neighbors who disagree with this projection. People who live on Road 41 are essential to the rural character of which the Moores speak. Many, or as the Moores would say, a handful of Road 41 agriculturalists do not want this project to go through. Therefore, the desire to highlight agricultural and industry talent will be at the exploitation of their ag industry neighbors who do not want the negative impacts the project will bring. Concern from rural neighbors about impacts to their livelihoods is a clear indicator that the proposed HIP will not protect the rural character which defines Road 41. Finally, they state, quote, but without local support, this would be the end of the road.
Ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Robin Smith. I live 25745 Road H, Cortez. And I'm sorry to see so much negative, anyway, so many negative issues. I went through something kind of similar last year, and that's actually how I met the Moores, because I watched their meeting, and I was really surprised at it. Just reminded me of some things that we went through. And for our campground, we have a campground at the end of a county road, and it is in an agricultural area. And there were a few neighbors that sort of rallied together and had a lot of fears and were concerned about noise and traffic, same issues, right? And it's a dead-end road, and it's narrow also. So unfortunately, they didn't come to us, or, my phone number's on the gate. No one talked to us first. And a lot of those issues really were not valid. And since, since we have moved forward and we're in business, we actually do have more traffic than they would ever have. And I can tell you, I drive up and down Road H to that dead end, to the end where we are, probably 5-6 days a week, different times of day, and I hardly pass a car. I really do. And most of the time when I do, there might be one in front of me and I might pass one. And the one in front of me usually turns into the neighborhood before we even get there. And yet we do have daily more traffic than they would have. And I just don't feel the impact. I don't even see it. And it just, probably it's fear, and it seems like more, 15 round trips. It's really not much. It's really hardly noticeable. And I say that from experience because I pay attention, because I am concerned about it. You know, I'm in that same situation. I barely notice it. Occasionally, one of our guests is in front of me, or I do cross past one, but it's maybe one, you know, and not even every time, but every day. So it's funny how they spread out, but they do, and it just doesn't have that impact that is, I think, the fear is out here over. Another thing was noise. My neighbor, our closest neighbor, was really concerned about noise, and we had a party last Labor Day, and it was loud, and we let it be loud, and it was a private party. It wasn't even really part of the business. And I felt bad, and I said, we won't do it again, and we won't. We really won't. We learned that lesson, and because it disturbed her, you know. And on Memorial Weekend, we had a band, and we faced it they're about the same distance, this neighbor is probably to their nearest neighbors as well. We faced the band a different direction till 9 p.m. My neighbor next door said she didn't hear a thing, and she was the one that was opposed. I'm just saying that it can be mitigated.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm John Davis. I live at 7031 Road 41. John Davis, 7031 Road 41.
Okay, thank you.
And I would like to read this letter from my neighbor, Melinda Bronson. Dear Commissioners, in addition to signing the May 26, 2023 letter being circulated by my neighbors, I would like to offer the following. Having lived at 8385 Road 41 in Mancos for the past 40 years without interruption, I have observed the predictable increase in traffic flow on this county road with growing concern. The road itself is not particularly safe and includes some sharp curves. Some years ago, a vehicle came around one of those curves above my house, apparently too fast, veered off the road and landed upside down right in front of my carport. My son and his friend were camping in our living room just a few feet away. Since then, I have experienced a number of other examples related to the hazardous nature of the road. Any additional traffic would seem to represent an unnecessary risk to me and my neighbors, given that the roadway was never initially constructed to support the kind of load being requested by the above proposal. I don't believe that all of the guests attending these events will be transported by bus. People like to take their own vehicles everywhere, and I don't think we can trust that these drivers will abstain from alcohol while driving up and down County Road 41. Please deny this HIP. Sincerely, Melinda Bronson. And I would like to add one more thing. I share a boundary with the Moores. The only communication I have had with them is the 2 registered letters that were sent. They have never come to my door. There was a message on my phone about doing the sound test, and there was also an invitation for their open house placed in my mailbox illegally. There was no postage. It did not go through the post office. And you are not supposed to open anyone's mailbox. It's illegal. It's a federal offense. I work for the post office, so I know this. So I don't feel like they've actually reached out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Janine Sluter. I currently reside at 422 West Grand Avenue, and I also own a small business located at 116 North Main Street in Mancos. I'm speaking in support of Sylvina and Jeremy Moore's application for a high-impact special use permit to host micro weddings and community events at their residence on Road 41. This past winter, I attended an open house that Jeremy and Sylvina hosted at their property to hear and address issues that were being expressed by their neighbors and local community members. I've heard arguments from both sides, and while I can understand the concerns voiced by the oppositional party, I have seen how the Moores have been open to and have restructured their plans multiple times to mitigate and address all of these concerns. Even when approached with threats and intimidation, Jeremy and Sylvina have continually held space for civil conversation and compromise with members of our community in pursuit of their endeavors to create an event space. I believe the proposed use of Weber Hall as a micro venue and event space would make a wonderful addition to our community and our local economy without imposing negative implications upon surrounding neighbors. I know Jeremy and Sylvina well and know how passionate they both are about supporting our local community. Weber Hall would provide greater opportunities to support the local small business vendors, farmers, restaurants, and lodging we all know and love in our county, and would help keep money pouring back into our local economy versus diverting it towards Durango, Telluride, and surrounding areas. Additionally, I believe Weber Hall will be a great resource for year-round community events and fun for locals through small dinners, game nights, and other various gathering opportunities that can provide some variety apart from bars and restaurants or involve traveling to Durango and other towns. And lastly, I believe these events can help provide future employment opportunities for Mancos residents, especially in the slower winter months, to help keep locals local. The one thing I love most about Mancos that sets us apart from the rest of the unique and tight-knit community we all have here is the unique and tight-knit community we all have here. We have residents from all walks of life, yet we have this incredible ability to coexist and really support one another. This is a characteristic that is unmatched anywhere else I've seen, and I take pride in that. One of the complaints I've heard being repeatedly tossed around this proposal is that we want to keep Mancos Mancos. We don't want to be Durango, and we don't want to be Telluride. Most of my life, I have lived in small Colorado towns adjacent to big tourist hotspots, and I can understand the sentiment of preserving what we have. I've seen what happens to small towns when locals get pushed out to cater to ultra-wealthy. Look at Aspen, Steamboat, Durango, and Telluride with the housing crisis and high cost of living. I've worked at many of the illustrious resorts and private venues that have overtaken commerce in these areas and make it difficult for small businesses to thrive. But these weren't locals developing these exclusive enterprises. They were big money investors from out of state. And let me tell you, they rarely have much incentive to support local farmers and vendors. More times than not, outsourcing upscale vendors from LA and New York. Being in such
Ma'am, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sonia Vincent, and I reside at 225 Elavita Court in Durango, Colorado. I am reading this letter from Krista Woody at 13272 Road 28, Dolores, Colorado. Hi, my name is Krista Woody. I was the realtor who sold Sylvina and Jeremy their property, and I am aware of the neighborhood they live in out on Road 41. It is to my understanding that the property they live on does not have an HOA or covenants on their land, and if they were to get denied this permit, then this could set limits on landowner rights in Weber Canyon. There is also no data on whether or not this would affect anyone's property value, and for opposition to say that without evidence is harmful to growth overall. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name is Trent Woods. I live at 620 Baker Ave in Cortez. I grew up in, was born and raised in Durango, Colorado. Ran cattle there, did hay with my family and family friends. I've lived in Mancos and I live in Cortez currently. I understand the agricultural sentiments, but I know that these two people respect that and respect people who are in agriculture. I'm also an ordained minister, and there's nothing like a wedding to bring people and families together and unite communities. So I think a wedding venue provides a lot of opportunity for communities to come together, despite the harm that some people may have felt through the lack of communication they felt they may have received. But I know there's a lot of opportunity in the future. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. And we will close public
Do we
comments.
get a chance to respond to those?
Yeah, we're going to close public comment, and then we'll have some questions for you and go from there, all right? So we're going to close public comment, bring it back to the commission. And
do you intend to live?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We still have the rest of the house that we can
Okay.
live, like, we are gonna live in.
Okay. Would you ever be the chaperones?
No,
Okay.
we would hire one.
Well, I mean, I think that we're gonna change as we go, and we're gonna see what we need as we go.
Okay.
But, you know, like, I mean, we're gonna have as many chaperones as we need to run the place. And at first, I think, you know, we're gonna manage as much as we can.
Okay.
And if we can, you know, get that,
So
bring
there
that
is
up.
the opportunity that you might be
Yeah.
the chaperones.
Well, yeah, I don't know, she's the
We're
boss,
either-
so.
No, no, I think we need all the help we can get to just mitigate everything. Like, and once we feel solid where we are, then we'll like go from 30 to 40 people, you know, but we have to make sure we're there.
Okay.
I
I will just have a couple conditions, that's all.
Okay.
If it's okay.
I had a couple questions, clarification on events per month. Okay. So are we talking about 2 per month total? Or is that the events outside of the weddings on the weekends? Just so I can get clarification there.
So it's 2 weddings per weekend, Friday and Saturday most likely. So that's about 8 per month, plus the 2 community events that we would have. And that would be for nonprofits. It could be yoga, it could be anything.
And so the weddings would be from May to October?
Yes.
And then the community events would be outside of that time frame in addition to the wedding season, is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
And we just want to say too that we're still flexible on this stuff. We've tried to have a dialogue as much as possible, and we wanted to compromise as much as possible. When we had that meeting at our house, it was frustrating for us because it was kind of either nothing or else. And we've been willing to listen to those concerns and change our application as we've gone along, and we're still willing to do that. We want to work with people to try and find the best solution to all this stuff. Honestly, we haven't had that many people. There was some really, really good, like with the parking lot situation. Somebody, you know, was willing to work with us on that. We thought that we were going to be able to have some practice events at our place. We talked with Don. We knew that we were not able to have large events. And so we had some dinners for 20 people, and I talked with one individual about that, and it was agreed upon that they thought we should have some trial events. And so we did that with 20 people at those events, and then they filed a complaint against us. So we are more than willing to compromise on any of this stuff if they're willing to meet with us and actually talk that through with us.
Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I have a question for Dawn. If an application like this is approved, the chairman said that at some point, if the conditions of the permit were violated, it's possible that the permit could be canceled or rescinded. Is that how that works?
Yeah, they would be first contacted with a letter on any violations of the land use code or their high impact permit.
And then is that just based on complaints of neighbors counting more than 15 round trips or measuring decibel levels at their property that are higher than they're supposed to during the time period?
Right, so if there's any noise complaints, we recommend that anybody that has a complaint has some evidence as far as a calibrated noise meter, so that there are some actual readings, not just from a cell phone or, you know, there's 100 different apps. As far as any actual evidence, Road and Bridge They have full control over the traffic on that road. They don't have any limits of traffic on that road. And I guess just to clarify, part of the high impact permit, the land use code allows every property to have up to 15 vehicle round trips per day. The high impact permit allows you to exceed that. Now to this degree, and part of the high impact permit application process is to mitigate anything and everything that you can, which is the conversation and the presentation that we've had. So exceeding that 15 is not a drop dead date. I believe in the thresholds they listed that they would exceed that or could exceed that, but they are showing mitigation not to exceed that. You know, people can have a Super Bowl party, but what you turn into is if you're running a business where you have, you know, a list of dates that you're operating, then that is underneath the high impact permit. If you're operating outside of those dates, then obviously you're violating the high impact permit and it can be rescinded. If that answers your question.
Yes, thanks. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, looking at everything, having been here when you presented last time, you can see that there's a significant consideration on, and thought has went into this. It's the level of detail that you guys have put into it is, it's commendable. It really is. My question for you, Don, is we've seen high impact permits with a time limitation on them, right?
They typically don't, but there are times where there's a condition of an annual review, semi-annual review, that can be one of the contingencies. Typically, they don't expire. Rather, they might be up for review just to see if everything is being complied with.
Now, through a review, does that process go through the same, in a review, would that require them to go through the same process as they are right now? Or is that a review done by you guys or the commissioners?
It would be, I would have to double check, rather it has to go through P&Z and the commissioners. Typically, it would just be a review by the Board of County Commissioners in a public hearing setting.
Gotcha, okay. Okay. Well, I think at this point, if we don't have anything else to add.
No.
Okay.
No.
Then we will entertain a motion.
Okay, since Mr. Lynch is...
I can do this one if you want.
Go for it.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners to approve a proposed high-impact permit application submitted by Silvina Guerrero Moore and Jeremy Moore based on the following. The proposed use is in conformity with the code. The proposed use shall not generate any significant adverse impacts on other property in the area, and public utilities and services are available or can be made available to support uses consistent with the proposed zoning.
Any conditions from you?
Not from me.
I will second it with conditions. Conditions would be, we want to make sure that that 55 decibel level at the property line is maintained.
Absolutely.
And then I would also suggest, again, signage on that road, especially for the northbound side.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my two
Okay.
conditions, but I do second it.
Motion was seconded by Commissioner Hernandez. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, we will call a vote.
Commissioner Farian.
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Aye.
Commissioner Lynch.
Aye.
Motion was carried, vote was unanimous. Thank you guys, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Conditions,
Yeah.
decimal 55.
Okay.
I don't know if he's got to leave yet. He's been trying to leave for over an hour. And so we finally came out with that.
Which door was locked? Downstairs?
I'm not sure. We don't control that. I don't know if Don has any information, but that. So I know to leave, there's a button on the side that you have to push, and it unlocks the
Once
doors.
you're inside, yeah.
Once you're inside, as far as.
You got to do that. So people can't like go to the restroom and try to let them in.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
think those doors are scheduled to lock at 7.
Okay.
Maybe 7:30.
And so that's the building administrator. We'll let them know, and I'm sorry, we don't have. We're totally. Yeah.
So you just switch that.
Sure.
Switch that to over there.
Yeah.
Of course.
Then I have to close that down, right?
Thank you.
Okay. Then this all will close down itself, by itself? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Yeah.
Again.
Okay, so we still have additional.
I'm going to tell them they need to.
Okay, I can tell them. Excuse me. We still have other things that we have to address. Could you please? Thank you.
Thank you. Otherwise, we're going to be here till midnight.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, yeah, you're good.
What's this? Hey.
Thank you.
Okay. Jane, can we have roll call, please?
I guess I'm director now. Commissioner Farian.
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Here.
Commissioner Lynch.
Here.
Okay, so additional discussion. I think everybody got a chance to, did everybody get a chance to read the Tools for a Good Neighbor policy?
Yeah.
And then did anybody have an opportunity to see the edits that Director Haley made?
No.
In those? Okay.
I have a copy of that with the
Yeah.
corrections.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think the education portion, or this was sent to us by Commissioner Candelaria in response to using this as an education piece for the land use code, right? Cliff Notes version, if you will, right? Of what the land use code is, that we have one, those types of things. Director Haley obviously made edits to pieces that weren't really relevant
I thought on the land use code?
in this,
Oh,
in
this
this
one, okay.
piece. Yeah, because this was written
Yeah, this
in
is before.
97, I think.
96.
96,
Yeah. I remember this.
yeah. So, so I think at this point, Commissioner Candelaria made a comment. My opinion is to take it to Planning Commission, see if it works for education of the community and its needs for now, what type of revisions are needed in their minds, what needs to be added or reduced, et cetera. Do you guys have any edits or?
This?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
this,
I knew that
yeah.
Liz was gone, but.
So the landowner initiated zoning is obsolete, it's no
Mhm.
longer. So that is the reason why it's Xed out.
Right.
So it needs to be removed.
Which were, most of the edits were pertaining to Liz.
Yes.
In-
And then this sentence right here was related to Liz, and so that needs to be removed as well. It's on your screen there, you can
Yep.
see it.
Would you be the one that does this, Jane?
Dawn and I will be, but yeah, I would be the
Okay.
bigger majority of doing it, yeah.
What I would suggest is that it gets edited and then back to us so that we could see it in a new form, if you will.
Yeah, we can do
So
that.
It's complete and not with the X's and the crosses out and so forth.
Mhm.
Well,
This
and
we
that's
just
cumbersome
did
for-
this.
For me anyway,
yeah.
it would be.
Yeah.
I think the intention was just to see if we had any feedback on specific items
Yeah.
that needed to be removed from
Yeah.
that.
And so, in the next page.
I think this data point with the 94 voter referendum, I don't know that that's relevant anymore since we have, that
Yeah.
was pertaining to the good neighbor policy,
Mhm.
and now we have the land use code.
The tools for a good neighbor policy would still need to be pertinent to go along with the land use code. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of view this as the shortened version, Cliff Notes of our land use code.
Mhm.
That we have one, these are the subsections, and if you want more detail, here are reference points,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, and this right here, where did it come from? It's just giving you a little bit of a short history of how this came about.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then it does talk in depth a little bit about PUDs, and that sort of thing.
So this is the education.
Yes,
That's
this is
what
the
I'm saying. That's
education
the
aspect.
That's what they're thinking should be the education.
And if they want, if anybody wanted further information, they could go to the land use code and it
Okay.
would,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. See, this would be then, like we stated, for the condition, it's this is the document that we want you, seller, to give to the buyer.
With a directive link or some direction to the actual
Land use code,
land
well,
use code.
that's gonna be in here, I saw that.
Yeah,
The email
yeah.
address or the link is there.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, so, yeah, you're covered then, yeah.
Yeah.
Did Dawn send this to us, this copy with the X's and,
Mhm.
okay, I missed that, so.
And then, of course, that talks about Liz.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this here tells you, the right to farm, your easements for conservation and cluster incentives. And it goes more in depth with the cluster incentive PUDs, and that sort of thing.
I'm thinking that, to me, this is, like you say, it's a Cliff Notes version, so I'm wondering if we could encourage realtors to hand this out
Yeah.
when property is sold.
That too, absolutely. This should be at their desk, yeah.
Yes, because not only are landowners and potential buyers needing education, realtors and title companies really need
the education.
really need the education.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was gonna say, giving this to title companies upon the signing of
Right.
whatever documents.
And they're the majority player, if you
Yeah,
will, in
because-
the transaction.
Well, in a real estate agent's not always involved. A title company almost
Always
always
involved.
is.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're correct.
Yeah.
So that's
And
For the
another
transfer
title
of
slash
deeds.
escrow is always involved, yeah.
Yeah, title companies are always involved because of transfer of deeds.
But they still need to know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I bought my 35 acres up in Dolores, when I got the title report, that's what it said. 35 acres on Road W. That was my legal description. And I called them up and I said, what 35 acres on Road W? This is the title company.
Wow.
What 35 acres? The one you just bought.
Right.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, there's no, I don't think we do a good job of informing our residents of the land use code. And it's just a matter of complicit, or not complicit, but just, it's not on anybody's top of their mind, right? It's not ever important until it is important.
Correct.
You know, and I think we can mitigate issues by pieces like this. And I can't remember, I thought I saw something in this where it references reaching out to your neighbors if you're looking for change, if you're looking to change something.
I did say that, yeah.
And I think that always goes back to, I think that's very important for where we're at. If we're looking to, if we say we're a community, but we don't do these actions, or a small community, and then we don't do these actions, that's not the same thing.
Well, the
right?
easiest thing to do to be a good neighbor is to talk to your neighbors.
Exactly, exactly.
And, you know, I don't want, there's a mindset out there that it's my property, I can do what I want to. And that was evident on Tuesday's meeting with that gentleman, you know. And I will chastise Commissioner Candelaria for not stopping him in his tracks and saying, we have a land use code. Yes, you can do things if you follow this land use code. Because he was kind of adamant that, man, yeah.
But I mean, and I do think individual property owner rights are imperative,
Yes,
right?
yes.
However.
There's the key,
However. It needs to be not at the detriment of everybody else's rights, right?
Why should I have the legal right to impact your life?
Exactly. And that goes back to our workshop when we were talking about the subjective nature of our decisions and whatnot, that bearing down and quantifying the significant adverse impact on each of the neighbors. My understanding of that is different than yours, right? And that's why we have a minimum of 3 up here to make a decision, right? I do think that this is a good tool. I do think it needs updated, right? Maybe some, maybe some new graphics and things like that, you know? I'm not really it's not really in my line of work, so I don't know that much about that. But I do think that this is an opportunity to give, to give that out at title companies and sales and education events, and, you know, who knows, maybe we have a pile of them right there when we're in these land use code meetings that people can take from and get, you know, hey, this is free, this is a Cliff Notes version of the land use code. And then to Commissioner Lynch's point, in the email that we got for the mailer, yeah. I think that's an excellent idea. Like I told you before, if we make a change, or if we have an education, maybe that's in addition to this, right? I think that would cost too much to mail out.
Yeah.
But a short postcard, like Commissioner Lynch said, you know, at the top, red letters, stop, you know, look here before you develop, you know, call this number before you develop, email, or, you know, this web address, and then just short bullet points on the land use code, right?
It's the same concept of, if, before you dig, call 811, locate.
Yep. Well,
Call the planning office.
The thing with that, it's a good point, Jane. If you did hit something, you're liable. You're liable. So, and that's what we need to tell people. If you do something and it's wrong, there's your setback's not right. You know, you're liable.
And that's where all this is in preparation for addressing the after the fact PUDs, right? Because if we do all of these things and we go a period of time where we can show that we have done some kind of education piece, that we're then closer to what our original proposal was of potentially changing, yeah, changing those restrictions or
Yeah.
increasing.
The fees.
Yeah, the fee.
Yeah.
So I looked this over. I think some time needs to be spent on it from a graphic standpoint. Also, editing out some of the language.
Yeah, let's take a clean look at it. I would suggest too, Jane, and this is my thought, a cloud around county land use. So it
Where's
stands
that?
out.
Oh, the land use
So
right
it
here?
just stands out, yeah, just a
Okay.
cloud, yeah.
Okay. I think that right now, the county commissioners are just wanting you to look this over and give some mindset of what you want to see in this. And then, and what you want to take out and maintain
Yeah.
or add to it.
See, I think that I go back to, I don't know if the history is relevant, being
Yeah.
that was the history that led to this policy. This policy has subsequently been trumped by the land use code. So I think this needs to be geared more towards, here are some major bullet points,
Okay.
like we see in here, right? Here are some major bullet points of the land use code in pretty straightforward terms, right?
And in place of what's here, put in bullet points of the land use code?
Well, I'm not saying in that spot, I'm just saying that portion needs to be removed.
Oh, okay.
And then going back to all of the, all of the other information seems to be pertinent, right? Explaining landowner rights along with the opportunities that one might have being a landowner. Which, and it talks about the PUDs and all that kind of stuff. This is not just because it's on here doesn't mean it fits, right? But here is, just know that this is out here.
Yeah. And then it does go into the threshold summary. And it does.
And the
give a-
thresholds have changed, right?
No, not really.
Oh, I thought
They have remained.
Okay.
The only thing that has changed, basically is the setbacks. For residential, instead of being 50 feet, it's now 30.
Right.
Outbuildings are 30 feet, but, it has always been that commercial property next to residential property is always 50 feet.
Commercial.
Yes, a commercial building has to be a minimum of 50 feet from a residential property line. But
From any property line, right?
And that's,
well, only residential property lines. Commercial to commercial
commercial,
property is 25 feet,
Gotcha.
because it's not impacting somebody's life really,
Residential, yeah.
because it's commercial to commercial.
Gotcha.
and there's no setbacks in here, I didn't see them. Did I just miss
Um,
them?
It's a good point.
I mean, I think they should be in there.
That should be in
They
there.
should be
Well,
in
here,
there.
it says right here.
Where's it at? What page? On the
Right here,
handbook?
threshold standards, address, building size, height, setbacks.
I know, but what I think John's saying.
Oh, you
we
want a
should have the
specific,
actual
you want
numbers.
specific.
Put numbers, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because that is a question I get a lot.
Yeah, there you go, because that's what somebody's gonna zero in on. Hey, I'm gonna put up a barn, oh, right there, it says it's 25 feet.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I do think we should identify those.
And fences are not necessarily property line.
No. Fence law is only in effect if you take it to court.
If you do, take the property tort,
To court,
or to court.
to court.
Well,
And
yeah,
get a legal,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the
But
only way fence lines
But, yeah, but
are.
a fence is not property.
No.
I do think the the setbacks specific to residential, and then commercial, and then commercial to residential. Those need to be
Yeah,
stated.
I mean, that's, yeah, put those three in there, yeah. And you could say, you know, like I said, outbuilding 25 feet from property line, and then in parentheses, not fence.
Right, confirm the.
Yeah,
that it's-
confirm your property line.
And maybe that's something we should talk about as well, is highly suggested to have your property surveyed,
Absolutely.
right?
But, you know, it's amazing. The most expensive property, you know, in the country is California, and you don't have to have it surveyed.
Yeah.
You know, come on.
Well, we,
Well, you don't have to have
Yeah,
it surveyed
here,
here.
no, but
we
there's
did
a lot of
have.
states do.
Yeah, we did have, a gentleman, come to us, and he thought that his property went to his neighbor's fence line, but his neighbor put his fence where he needed to have it, but his property line was way over here. And so the guy thought that his property went all the way to the fence line,
yeah.
but it didn't. It was like,
You had no man's land in there, yeah.
well, the neighbor that put his fence line inside where he needed it to be was like, half an acre off of his fence line. I mean, off of his property line. And so that guy thought that it was his
yeah,
property,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not.
And I tell them, I will tell you, realtors will tell you, property lines at the fence.
Yeah,
They'll tell you that.
yeah,
They will tell you that.
Yeah.
but it's
And-
not.
And fence law is 10 years.
18.
18? I thought it was 10 in the state of Colorado.
18.
18 years, but they,
yeah.
is that, how
But-
does one
But
go
you
about
could
that?
you could take property for 7 years with adverse possession.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can take it 7 years, but you gotta go through the 3 steps.
Yes. And to prove that fence.
That's the question,
that-
right?
And to prove that the fence line is property line, you have to go to court. And you have to have,
Have it surveyed.
yeah, you have to have a survey, you have to go through the legal steps to have a judge tell you, yes, that is your property line.
But if the fence has been there for 18 years, it
Still.
doesn't matter. You would lose that property. Yeah,
It'd be faster taking it in adverse possession. That's only 7 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think
legal.
all that stuff needs to be in there, but,
No, that's,
No.
that was my feedback
And
on
so,
that position.
also, this right here, where is it? This statement right here, no public hearing or permit approval is required for uses that do not exceed threshold standards. That is false. So that is the reason why it is marked out.
Okay.
Public hearings do have to happen.
Okay.
And then, there's other Liz language.
yeah, all that list stuff, yeah.
Zoning, this here, it is
Out of date, to say the least.
outdated, and so he says here this will be replaced by our contact list. I have since updated it.
Okay, good.
And so our contact list is quite extensive. So we have a lot of local, county, state, and Fed information on our contact list that we find that it is pertinent for most people, and it is useful.
Okay. Well, it's just a, you know.
And it's,
A name and a
it's
type-
basically
phone
4
number.
pages.
Yeah.
Our
And I
contact
would-
list
I
is 4
would-
pages.
Okay, and I would, at least designate that it's all 970? If it is, if not.
Yeah,
Well,
I would
area
put
codes.
On my contact list, I do have area codes.
Yep.
Because I have, I have contacts that are local.
Sure.
I have some that are not local, that are in Durango or
CDOT
whatever.
for one.
Or the
I also
feds.
have feds that are in, other states,
Yep.
Washington DC, and things like that. So, yes, I have
Okay, good.
area codes on all of that. And on most of the contacts, I also have email addresses.
That's great.
So,
I'm thinking it should include a revision date on it.
Yes, I will put that on there, yeah. And then also, here we have updated our email address for planning.
Yeah, and get the site for the land use code,
Yes, yes.
so you can go right to it.
Mhm.
I mean, I would have appreciated something like this in, when I first bought my property, just not knowing exactly what the setbacks were and all those kinds of things, so.
Mhm.
I think this is a really neat little flyer, as long as we get it updated.
Yeah, and also, for everybody out in YouTube land, we do have on our county website, and on the planning website, we do have the land use code to where it can be downloaded and things like that. Our fee schedule, everything that they might want to know about is on the website.
Yeah.
Or they can email us and we can email them back a copy of the land use code. If they come into our office, we have to charge them for printing it out for them. So, but there's no charge for email.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's their paper.
Mhm.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. We can.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Hang on.
Aye.
Hernandez?
He made the motion. Commissioner Lynch seconded.
Okay.
All voted in favor.